This is by far the fastest, easiest, and frankly most refreshing way to quit playing Dungeons & Dragons forever. Not only is Numenéra an incredibly original take on a campaign setting, Monte Cook goes out of their way to make sure this is the only book you'll ever need. On top of the masterfully crafted 9th world, the book offers all the races, classes, magic items, even an entire bestiary, even an entire huge fold out map of the setting. And on top of that, they copy-pasted the entire Cypher System rule set into this thick tome just to make sure this is the book that gets you playing. This is Numenéra. Man, I'm excited. Hi there fellow roleplayers and game masters, I am Mr. Tarask and this is your go-to YouTube channel for everything tabletop RPG and of course now everything Cypher System by Monte Cook Games. And Numenéra is a book I fell in love with immediately after opening, together with the Cypher System rulebook that I kind of reviewed last week, which ended up not being a review but more of a how-to video of how to play the Cypher System, just explaining how easy and quick it is to get into. And Numenéra is a campaign setting. It is more than that, but it is a campaign setting built for the Cypher System by Monte Cook Games. But it also has the rules of the Cypher System built into it, so you don't need to buy the Cypher System rulebook if you don't directly need that, if you just want to play in a Numenéra campaign setting. For this video, I want to do two things. I want to kind of talk about the physical book, what you get, why I think it's a lovely thing, and it is well worth your money. The value of this thing is absolutely insane. You will get years and years and years of playtime just from this book if you want. And then after that, I also want to quickly jump into the PDF, scroll through it, just to show you kind of what you get and to give you a feeling and to see if it is for you. Now, if you've been on my channel for a while now, you know that I really love and appreciate books that have everything you need to start playing in one book. For example, Odyssey of the Dragon Lords for 5th edition is one of those books. It has everything you need to start playing Odyssey of the Dragon Lords for 5th edition. But Numenéra is that, plus a lot of other things. It is even more. It is so incredibly, there's so much. There is, of course, an entire section about the world itself, which is titled Into the Distant Future, a billion years in the making. There is a getting started section. Then there is an entire section on the characters, which has the classes and kind of like the races and the professions you can play within the game. There is the rules of the game itself. Yes, you don't have this for 5th edition. You only have this for Cypher System books. They copy-paste kind of like the rules from the Cypher System into this book. Only like the rules of the Cypher System that you need for this campaign setting are in this book. You don't need to get the Cypher System rulebook if you don't want to. There is an entire part about the setting itself. There is an entire like creature codex kind of thing, creatures and characters. There is an entire section on the Numenéra, which are basically the magic items of this setting. I will get into that more in a bit. There is an entire section on running the game. Yes, they give you a Dungeon Master's Guide on the campaign setting and the game itself. So it is on top of just like the campaign setting, presenting it to you like here's a campaign setting and here are some classes and races, go play. Now no, they say here's a campaign setting, here are the rules how to play, and here is some tips and guidance on how to play. All of that in one book, and we're not done yet. There are three adventures in here. Pre-written, one easy for the game master, one intermediate for the game master, and one a bit harder for the game master, just to get you rolling in this setting and kind of familiarize yourself and the players with the setting and kind of see where the players want to go from there. And then there is a part they call the back matter, which has species options, which are basically the races you can pick, and there is more information about like the outskirts of the world, and there's just even more. So all of that, like even when they talk about the classes and the professions and whatever, the foci, which is plural of focus, they don't just say here are the classes or here are the races. No, they have an entire section on how to create your character. It is in this book. So if you want to play in the Numenéra campaign setting, which is called the Ninth World, by the way, this book is, frankly, it is all you need. So just like the lands of the Forgotten Realms are called Faerun, the lands of Numenéra are called the Ninth World. And let me just quickly try to explain what it is. And I think this is an incredibly original take on a campaign setting, because it is a fantasy campaign setting with a little bit of science fiction in it, but in a really weird past kind of way. So we live 1 billion years in the future on Earth. Now, don't walk away. It is not that kind of billion years in the future. And we are on the Ninth World, which means there have been 8 civilizations before this one that have lived, thrived, invented things, maybe even did space travel and other stuff, and they left traces of their civilization on Earth. And now there is a new civilization, a new form of mankind that has just been around for only, like, I think it's 900 years or something like that. That's how recent it is. But they live in a kind of medieval fantasy setting that we know and love from Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, just fantasy RPGs, but they every now and then, like on an almost daily basis, they find weird artifacts and weird kind of like technological things that they call Numenéra. It often is a thing that had a previous meaning or a previous use, but nobody really knows what its use was, and now it's just used for something entirely different. And most of these only have enough energy to be used once and then become like a cool thing to put on your shelf or just throw away in the garbage bin. So you got this really weird and really original way of people living in a fantasy setting, a young fantasy setting on a fresh Earth that has a lot of really dangerous and wicked creatures. There's a lot of danger, so the main people are just still doing everything they can to survive, while on the other hand, there is just technology and weirdness being dug up. So and people are trying to like kind of figure out what this technology is and which technology belongs to what civilization that has lived before, because we know, the people know, there has been 8 civilizations before, and we also know like one civilization had space travel and one civilization has this and one civilization has this, and it is an incredibly original setting and I absolutely adore it. So this is something I don't do very often. And that is talk about the writing itself. I mostly talk about the artwork, about the layout, about the world building, about the geniusness that people come up with in the books that I have reviewed in the past, but not often do I talk about the actual writing. Monte Cook and Co. go out of their way to make everything incredibly understandable for the common person like myself. This reads so incredibly well, and I cannot put my finger on it. It's weird. I cannot put my finger on it. They're trying to explain a setting 1 billion freaking years in the future. It is the most weird thing that somebody can come up with. We wouldn't understand what would happen with these people, how they think, how they act with each other. But this book and the writing of the Cypher System rulebook, just the same, they make it so incredibly approachable and beautifully written. And I just want to congratulate the people that work for Monte Cook Games that write the damn stuff. Yes, the artwork is great. Yes, the layout is great. It's all really beautiful, but the writing here is just, often I feel that a lot of writers these days are trying to use very fancy words for the sake of using fancy words, which can create really beautiful, almost poetic pieces of text. But it takes me, I'm dyslexic, a long time to read often. This is, I swear this is 400-ish pages thick, and I read the bulk of this in a week time. That's good writing. 10 minutes in the video and we're still not scratching the surface. Okay, let's go. We can do this. We can do this. Now, another thing Monte Cook does and introduces with the Numenéra book is introduce a few new classes specifically designed for the Numenéra campaign setting. Now, the Cypher System rulebook is a setting-neutral rulebook which has its own classes. It has its own magic items, its own skills, its own weapons, and everything you can use in whatever setting you want. You can use those classes in Numenéra if you want, but you can also run a Star Wars game with that. Yes, you can run a Star Wars game with the Cypher System easily, a full-on cyberpunk campaign, or you can go full deep into the boots on the ground, dark fantasy, even horror-themed campaigns, whatever you want, you can play with the Cypher System rulebook. But with Numenéra, they kind of wanted like stuff that made even more sense for the campaign setting, and they introduced 3 new classes, which aren't called classes specifically in the Cypher System, but just saying classes for people who don't really know the Cypher System and are yet to watch my other video on it. So they introduced the Glaive, which is more of like the warrior type who can have like can carry big weapons, but they can also, when they're strong enough, they can get like even mech suits if you want, all of that stuff. There are the Nano, which are really, really cool. They are the people who can really work with technology and kind of bend it and fix it, and they have a nick of finding the kind of stuff. And then there is the Jack, who is basically a jack of all trades, who's good at a lot of things, but isn't really specifically the best in one thing. But they're often like, they remind me of Star Wars Episode 7, where Rey is like this, she's like inside this ship searching for stuff, and she's really good at finding stuff and using it and utilizing it for different stuff. So she has a stormtrooper goggles that she uses for sand goggles and stuff like that. That's what a Jack is in the Numenéra campaign setting for me. And they also introduce new skills. Now, the Cypher System doesn't have a specific set of skills. There is a list of skills that are just basically like, hey, here's a list of skills. If you want to use these skills, these make sense. But if you can come up with any other skill together with your game master or together with your players, please do so and write them down on your character sheets. But they provide you with a set of skills that make sense for the setting, like astronomy or like Numenéra discovery. There's way more stuff they do where they take the Cypher System and then build stuff for the campaign setting from the Cypher System. So let's take a leak. So let's take a look at the Numenéra Discovery PDF. And before I go into this, there's something really important I want to show you, and I want to thank Monte Cook Games from the bottom of my heart for designing it this way, because it makes my life so much easier. Now, if you're flipping through a physical book, oftentimes it's a little bit hard to kind of tell what they're talking about, and then you come up to like something they're talking about and you're like, what is the ruling around that again? Stuff like that. Monte Cook Games does a really good job on handling that for you as a reader and making flipping through the physical book really easy for you to do, and you always know where you need to go to figure something out. For example, right here, they're talking about the people of the ninth world and everything. And then they kind of have words right here, and I need to zoom in really quickly to kind of show you words they talk about in the book right here. They sometimes put them in somewhat greenish letters. It's really hard to see on the screen for you, but for me it's easier to see. And in the print book it is really easy to see. They put it in green, and then they put like the page number and where to go in the sidebar right here. And this is on almost, I swear this is on all, look at this. This is on almost every page. So they talk about all kinds of different stuff across the book, but then you come up to like, and you're uncertain about something, 9 times out of 10, it's just in the sidebar with the page number. And yes, adding page numbers isn't that hard, Wizards of the Coast. With the page number, you can just flip to it, and with the PDF, you can just click it. It is hyperlinked. It all just works, and it works. It just works. I love that so much. So here we are, the Numenéra Discovery PDF by Monte Cook, Bruce R. Cordell, and Sean K. Reynolds. The cover is exactly what Numenéra, the campaign setting, is. Although I think the cover might be for me a little bit too sci-fi and a little bit too little fantasy. For I see Numenéra a little bit more fantasy and a little bit less of this kind of stuff, but that is up to the game master, of course, to interpret it the way you want. And as you can see, it is empty. There's nothing in the book. It's just empty pages. I'm kidding, of course. The Numenéra Discovery credits, and here is the table of contents. And as you can see, 413 pages thick thing with getting started, characters playing the game, the setting, creatures and characters, the Numenéra, running the game, adventures, all of that stuff. So let's just look at a few things that I haven't talked about yet. Of course, there are the new creature types, for example, like these ones. Is the, look at this, it's so cool. It's like the guy from the cover, I think. There is the nanos, which are the people that are really good at figuring out and working with technology. There are the jacks of all trades, and this tells you what kind of setting it kind of is. You got these weird creatures a billion years in the future, which resemble creatures we know right now, but also aren't the creatures we know right now, because they're the creatures from a billion years in the future, and you can see it as fantasy. The creatures are fantasy, but at the same time, you see this guy with this I don't know, laying on the ground with this metallic thing on his belt. So he's probably has some technology stuff going on, and that is what Numenéra is all about. So yeah, the artwork in here is crazy good, of course. But let's look at, for example, the adventures. There are 3 adventures in here. So they give you an adventure overview of the 3 adventures, which are designed to kind of get you into the game and to kind of ease you into the campaign setting as a game master, but also as a player. So the first, especially, which is the Taker of Sorrow, is designed to really guide you through game mastering. It really holds your hand, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It really just holds your hand. And if you are a game master who's been playing 5th edition or Pathfinder or whatever game, you will not need that much of hand holding. So you can just ignore a big part of the hand-holding, which is perfectly fine. But people who are kind of new to DMing or are just like, yeah, I know how to game master a game, but this is new and not, it's just so new, I really want somebody to hold my hand, kind of. It is good kind of hand-holding. And yeah, so it goes through this, oh, look at this. Goes through this adventure, and it kind of tells you, like, you can take this or you can do it like this, and it's really a railroady adventure where there aren't a lot of options for the players to take a right turn where you expect a left turn, or take a left turn where you expect the players to take a right turn. The other adventures, so it becomes more and more like difficult to run the other adventures. The second adventure is a little more intermediate, and the third adventure is just like, hey, do your thing, you're the game master, here is an adventure, just the way you know and love it from 5th edition or whatever game you've been playing. But it's just for the Cypher system right now. So I think that is really a good thing to include in your PDF if you do a new setting. I often miss that kind of stuff, especially to this extent. There's often like in big books with big campaign settings, there's often like an introductory encounter or campaign hooks, or maybe like adventure hooks, or maybe like one adventure or something like that. And I remember in the 4th edition, D&D freaking Dungeon Master's Guide even had an adventure in it, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, having adventures pre-written in a campaign book really sells people into trying it, because there is a lot of people out there that are like, yeah, I kind of want to try this, right? I kind of want to try this. And then they're like, you know what? I need to come up with a story, and I just, so I don't know. I'm not familiar enough with it. And an adventure just gives you that freedom of just saying, you know, what the heck? I got a night off. Let's invite some friends and play a game of Numenéra, just one adventure, and see what they think. And you might end up spending an entire campaign with those people, spanning over different years. Another thing I want to talk about really quickly is this is really cool: creatures and characters. So like I said before, this book has its own creatures and characters, its own small bestiary, if you will, because it is its own really original, fresh of breath air campaign setting in a way that I haven't seen it done before, that it really needs its own creatures. And here they have creatures, and it opens up with this really wicked worm. So yeah, this worm just tells you like, yes, this is fantasy. There are big worms that want to eat you. There are creatures like this one, which is kind of like a cool ghost type creature. There are mounts, the Anin, which is like the camel of the ninth world, so to speak. There are a bunch of different creatures here that you can use for your game. There is this wicked ape type creature, and I want to just quickly go into what a creature actually is for the Cypher system, because I think it is really important to talk about that. I would just zoom in for a bit. I know my screen is probably a bit off. I will just do this, right? This works, right? So a creature, the blood barm, right? Which is a sheep made out of blood or something like that. A stat block for the Numenéra campaign setting is more about how to play the creature and what the creature is about than it is actual stats. As you can see, it has a level top right, which says 3, and between brackets it says 9. 9 is the number somebody needs to roll in order to hit it, or to not be hit by it, because the player rolls a defense roll as opposed to the game master rolling an attack roll. So everything you do against this creature, against a Cypher System creature, you just look at the level. You need to roll a 9 if you want to if you want to hit it. If you want to hit it ranged, if you want to hit it melee, if you want to hit it with a spell, if you want to hit it with anything else, if you want to tell an NPC what to do, intimidate them, lie to them, whatever, you look at their level. Then you look at they have, as you can see, they have health points right here. They have 4 points of damage, which they inflict if they hit. So if somebody fails their defense rolls, this creature does 4 points of damage. That's how simple it is. It has 2 armor, which means it has a damage reduction of 2 if it's hit by physical attacks. And its movement is short. Like I said in my previous video, Cypher System only has 3 distances, which is immediate, short, and long distance. And then, of course, there is the I'm getting the fuck out of here distance, but the 3 distances that actually make sense in combat are those ones. And that's basically all you need for this is all you need for a creature, for a... Let's say your characters are blowing their way, shooting their way, blasting their way through a spaceship full of low-level critter aliens, right? All you need is a level and a bunch of hit points and the damage they inflict upon a character if they hit them. And maybe like armor, whatever. That's all you need. Now, if you want... And like in 5th edition... If you have a rat, for example, you will need to figure out its intelligence, its dexterity, its freaking charisma. Who the fuck cares about a rat's charisma, right? With this, it just has a level. Everything is the same, except if you decide to it not be the same. That's where it is modifications. For example, speed defense as level 4 due to its size. So in short, if a player decides to attack with their speed stat, they have to roll a 12 or higher in order to actually hit this blood barm. And then they talk about how to use it. So you have the basic stat block, which is just level and hit points and damage inflicted, and then you have modifications that alter that. So if you have a bunch of low-level critter aliens, like I said before, just shooting your way through a hallway or whatever, you can just roll really quickly. You're like, your action, what do you do? I attack, you hit one, you blast it away, and goes into pieces against the wall, and now it's your turn. Yeah, I shoot another one. Okay, you hit it. That one explodes as well. Now it's their turn to jump on you. They hit you. And it's really fast paced. And then when your characters come across something bigger, then it's time to actually kind of, introduce modifications to the creatures and have them, for example, stat blocks become way longer, like this one, for example. There are modifications in here. There's just more modifications in here. Let's just look at this one really quickly. The Grag Worm modifications hides in rocky terrain as level 7. So normally, if a creature hides and it doesn't have a hide modification or anything, you just look again at its level. So its level is 6, so you need to roll an 18 in order to spot it, right? But since it says it is really good in hiding at rocky terrain, it hides as level 7. That's just the geniusly easiness of this is just, it blows my mind how simple this is to modify and to build. You could build a Cypher System monster in a matter of seconds. Like in 1 minute you have a monster, in 2 minutes you have a bigger monster, and in 3 minutes you have this gargantuan monster that does all kinds of different stuff, because you have your base thing and then you have your modifications. So it hides in rocky terrain is level 7. Now instead of, if you want to spot it, you don't have to roll an 18, you have to roll a 7 times 3, 21. So speed defense is a level 5 due to its size. So it's basically slower than its own level. So because it's big, perception as level 4, so it doesn't spot you as fast as its own level and all of that stuff. And then they go into, so you have the basic stat block right here, all the way up to this, which just says it's a level 6 creature that has 36 health, does 8 points of damage, has 2 armor reduction, health reduction when you hit it physically, and its movement is short. And then they say, oh, by the way, it can hide really good in rocky terrain. Its speed is it's not as fast as it likes to be, and its perception isn't really good, and it isn't really good at resisting trickery. That's what it is. All the other stuff is like how to freaking use it in your game. Look at this thing. Oh my god. Okay, so I don't like that. Just zoom out for a bit. So yeah, that is the bestiary part of this book that I really wanted to just scroll through, just give you a ID. Now the Cypher System rulebook itself also has a bunch of beasts, so it is, if you have that one and this one, you can really combine that together. And the Numenéra setting, this setting has 3 or 4 maybe bestiaries you can buy on top of this. So there are so many beasts to use in like the Numenéra campaign setting. And like I said before, the animals we see kind of resemble animals we know from now, but could be the way they look a billion years from now, if Earth is still there in a billion years. Before the first civilization, there were dinosaurs, then there was the first civilization, then there were a bunch more, and now there is the 9th civilization. This could be the new type. Oops, I don't know what I did. The new type of dinosaur, right? So I really like this section. I'm rambling. There's of course also a section on Numenéra. Actual Numenéra. What the campaign setting is all about. Numenéra discovery, right? Hence the name. Okay. On a serious note, Numenéra. There are 3 different kinds of Numenéra in the Numenéra campaign setting in the 9th world, which are, if I'm not mistaken, ciphers, artifacts, and then oddities and discoveries. So the main difference is just really simple. Ciphers are ciphers like you find in the Cypher System. They are one-use magic items. Now, some people refer to them as magic because they don't really know where they come from. Other people think they're more technology from civilizations in the past, and it's a young civilization we are in right now, so nobody really knows the answer and nobody really knows how and why they work. So these are just ciphers in the same way as a Cypher System, but just making more sense for Numenéra. So there is a cipher danger table, for example, like if you roll a nanosecond consuming the character and all their equipment, including the cipher. So if you roll too high on your D100, you actually have a cipher danger. And a cipher danger is something you get if you carry too many ciphers around. The lore kind of says, like, if you can only carry an X amount of ciphers with you on your person. Because they all have like strange, one has Wi-Fi, another one has Bluetooth, another one has like radio waves, and they kind of don't want to be next to each other, and they can explode, and stuff can happen when you put them next to each other, too many with each other, and that's why the Cypher danger table is there. Now, the danger D100 goes over 100, which is technically impossible, but the more ciphers you carry around, the more you add to your roll. So, for example, if you carry 5 ciphers while you can only carry 2, you add 30 to your roll, so you can technically roll 130. And so on, it becoming more and more dangerous. So let's hope and pray to God that nobody ever rolls this on their die. If somebody ever rolled that, please comment that below. That would be insanely funny to hear. So there is an entire new cipher list. Also, the ciphers from the Cypher System rulebook are also usable, but there is a ray emitter, there is a cat's eye, there is a tracer, a gas bomb, and like, for example, a gas bomb wasn't per se a gas bomb when it existed. It might have been an item that was part of a big machine, and it might have been an item that slowly emitted gases so another machine could work. I don't know, a kind of steam engine but with gas or something like that, like a gas-powered vehicle. In Belgium there are gas, like LPG powered vehicles. This could be something that released that or something like that in the past, but now it is just an old thing that if you throw it, it's so old it explodes and it's a gas bomb. That's how ciphers basically work. Then there are so they go into how they work with some rolling tables and all of that stuff. And they also talk about artifacts, which are basically ciphers that have many uses. Some have an X amount of uses, some regain their uses, all that stuff. And then there's oddities and discoveries, which are basically oddities and discoveries. And I haven't scratched the surface, but I'm going to end this video here anyway, because this thing is big. Really, really, really big. And when I say I haven't scratched the surface, I haven't scratched the surface. Until next video, bye-bye.